Hey folks, Kevin here. Well, it's June 30th, 2021, and today this video is going to be going over the reception or the unloading and initial examination of some equipment that I ordered a few months ago. The company that I ordered the material from is called Prime Attachments. And throughout this video, there's going to be some negative things that I'm going to say, but I want you to know that Prime Attachments, I think so far, well, actually I'm wearing a Prime Attachments shirt right now, I think really builds some excellent products. So last fall I ordered before the fall, last summer, I ordered a brush and rock grapple, which you've seen in videos if you watch the videos down and back, doing a lot of the work around the property. It's really done some amazing work. Both of these pieces of equipment that I ordered last summer and got last fall work on the front of Hound, the CK35-1 Komatsu track loader or skid steer. Really does great work. The other piece of equipment which you'll see being used today are the forks, and they're hydraulic forks, so the forks can, from the driver's seat, I can adjust the width of the forks, positioning and all. And there'll be videos coming up on how I'm going to use these forks in various different operations here on the property, other than just using them for moving pallets around and all. So last fall it was snowing at the time. This last year has been a challenge as far as getting materials and all. Everyone at all, whether it's tractors, excavators, whatever it is that I'm ordering, or heavy equipment, there's a big delay, increased prices of steel and all that. So you order things and you just hope that within a few months you'll get some of the materials. There's things that I've ordered that I won't get until probably December or January. So, but today's video is going to go over the trip that we make. Excuse me. The trip that I make with Hound, going and unloading 2 pallets. The first pallet contains a tree puller, and it also has on top of it the receiver for hooking up to a trailer, a 2-inch receiver. So that's on the first pallet. I don't think that the receiver was actually intended to be on this pallet. I think it did some damage. It'll be disclosed in this video. It was sitting upside down on it, but you'll see scratches on the back plate of the receiver, of the skid steer attachment, receiver attachment. And I think that was sitting on top of, or something was sitting on top of the Rototiller, which did some more damage to the hydraulics on that. So that's going to be disclosed in this. So why do I make these videos and all? As a clinician, if you don't document everything, it didn't happen. So that's just one of the things it's in my blood to document everything. That's why we have the security, the surveillance, and monitoring systems, all separate closed-circuit TV systems, so that I can document everything that actually happens here on the property. It just helps me to go back and reflect on things, because there's things in this video that weren't readily apparent that will be disclosed today in the video that I shot today. So it starts off me unloading 2 pallets. First load is the tree puller with the receiver on top of it. I bring that down and back, then I go in, I get the Rototiller, and I talk a little bit about the palletizing process that they use. Not what I'd recommend. I think their equipment is pretty darn well built, and so I've taken some photos and contacted the salesperson. So hopefully, like last time, immediately hydraulic hoses were shipped out, and I received them within a few days. And I hope that happens right away, because our season is so short. But one of the other reasons that I make videos like this is I sense, based on a text that I received from Randy, the salesperson, that and his text said something like, make sure to go through the hydraulic, make sure all the fittings are nice and tight. During the shipment process they loosen up and all, and I think that's all BS. He just wanted me to make sure that I check out the hydraulics, make sure all the fittings were tight, because I think he believes that the fittings were just loose on the last one and that they weren't damaged like they're damaged on this one. So I wanted to make sure I cover every single little nook and cranny here, because I've been working with heavy equipment since I was a teenager, and I'll tell you, pieces of equipment get shipped. I run equipment all over this property. The hydraulic fittings never come loose. I won't say never, but it's almost never. I can't ever recall of hydraulic fitting coming loose. If it's been secured appropriately, it can go years without it. You may blow a hydraulic line that needs to be replaced, but that's about the extent of the experiences that I've had. So what you're going to see is a video coming up now. We'll go through the process, and then I'll end things off at the end as well, just so you can see the whole process. So here we go. So it's June 29th, 2021. This is yesterday. I filmed the process of going up and unloading the FedEx tractor trailer there, which has 3 different items that I ordered from Prime Attachments. What I'm doing in this video is everything's sped up about 3 times normal speed through the beginning process when I'm actually operating the Hound, the track loader with the front end loader. I'm sorry, with the front end forks. So the forks that are on the front of this I actually received last fall. These are from Prime Attachments. They're hydraulically adjustable forks. You may see me adjust those in just a moment. So I'll watch the guy go ahead and move some things around, and there's my first pallet right there. We'll be taking a closer look at that in just a couple of moments here. But what I do is I go ahead and adjust the hydraulics because I see, geez, these are pretty narrow spacing on a standard pallet. And actually there's a pallet on top of a pallet, a broken pallet on top of a pallet, and it looks like the tree puller, which I'm about to unload now, was strapped to the upper pallet, and that pallet was placed on top of this lower pallet. So I'm just getting it close to the edge and then getting it as close as I can to pick up the tree puller. So I've got that on here, and so I'm going to back up now and head down the driveway, bring it around out back. It's in the afternoon, it's blazing hot and humid, so looks like this is pretty well secured. However, we'll investigate it a little bit later. You can see the double set of pallets there that this is sitting on. And then there's a skid steer receiver plate that I also ordered that's sitting on top of, upside down in reverse, on top of the tree puller. And unfortunately, it's sitting right on top of the couplers that are stored within that. So I'm going to go back up front, up to the driveway again, and we're going to go and get the Rototiller. The Rototiller was the first item I ordered a few months ago. And of course, any heavy-duty equipment that you're ordering right now, tractors, construction equipment, building materials, boy, there's a big delay, a wait list trying to get these building supplies and all. So I'm going up to get them, and one of the reasons I'm carefully documenting everything is because when I received the rock and grapple apparatus for the track loader here, which works absolutely fantastic, that along with the forks that I received last fall, well, I received it, when it was really inclement weather, it was snowing and all. I recorded, from the camera that I've got mounted in Hound right now, the process of going and getting the materials, but there was some damage that I don't know that everyone believed that the damage had occurred to the couples on the hydraulics. So I said, I'm going to document every single thing. One thing I'd say is this pallet is not the ideal pallet. It's not secured. It's 2x4s with 16 penny nails, and this is it should not have been loaded this way. The hydraulic motor is towards me, so that's at the heavier end, and we don't have to worry about that. But because it's so tipsy here, I have to bring it down about 1 inch off the ground, or basically almost dragging it along the ground, so that I don't have to worry about the unit getting damaged. The hydraulic hoses look like good heavy-duty hydraulic hoses here. Notice the one female flat-face coupler is right on the edge of the unit. My suspicion is that the receiver that is inverted upside down on the tree puller, which we'll get a closer look at in a few minutes, which is all scratched up, somehow it got scratches in the location. And I think that might have been setting on top of the Rototiller during transportation and did some damage to the flat-face female coupler. So just documenting everything from all the cameras, or at least from some of the cameras on the property, and in the track loader as well through the process. So this is yesterday, as I said, coming down. This is 3 times normal speed what I'm showing, so I'm going super slow and almost dragging this pallet along the ground, because the at the side that the forks are under, the nails have already pulled up out of the pallet, which doesn't allow me to pick it up very high off the ground. So you can see just basically just keeping it just barely off the surface of the ground. So I'm going to park it now, and then I'm going to take the GoPro camera, and we're just going to film a couple of things here to look at it before I come out today and start getting things assembled. So one of the things, see all the scratches on the surface of the skid steer place? How did those scratches get there? The other thing is, note that it's not strapped down like the tree puller was strapped down. And notice where the receiver is. It's and I did paint all these things up. You could see it had been sliding around on the arms of the tree puller, but the receiver hitch is actually banging up against the, I imagine it had been banging up against the flat face couplers that are right down below down there, and bent the actual connectors, and you'll see that in a couple of moments. But that surprised me that the receiver isn't strapped down. Now we're going to go over and look at the rototiller here as well. I'm talking through this, but one of the things I'd say is that I'm really disappointed in the lack of structural integrity. They could have used some diagonal supports on here. They could have used screws to hold this together. They could have put a couple more straps. I can see where there was a place for a second strap. You'll see my hand point to a place where there was a second strap here. Notice where the flange for the coupler is there as well, right over that beam, which is all scratched up. And I think that hydraulic plate must have been on it. Now, I didn't notice any damage to the hydraulic fittings. I was actually saying, wow, these are nice hydraulic hoses on the rototiller at the time that I'm examining it. And again, it's, you know, well over 90 degrees, super humid, and I'm beat from a rough day. So I just wanted to get some quick footage of this. And I did talk through it, but there's not much sense of me being redundant. And then what I'm going to do is take off the next day and share with you, so you can see those 16 penny nails just pulled right out of those 2x4s there. So they could really focus on this expensive equipment, really securing it more securely for transportation. God knows they get vibration. Who knows if they stack other items on top of one another. I suspect that that's what happened with that hydraulic coupler sitting on top of the rototiller. So it just seems too odd to me that these two things would happen with two different shipments that I got from the same supplier. I'm looking at the welds. I really do like the welds. It's so much of what I love about the way that Prime Attachments builds their equipment. It's their shipment. So here we are the next day. It's June 30th. These are the forks. I got these from Prime Attachment last fall and got to use them this season so far. They've worked absolutely fantastic, have done a great job so far. They're built very well. I'm real happy with them. The grapples, which you saw, the rock and brush grapples that I've been using down and back regularly, I'm real happy with how they're doing. However, I did have one, and I'll do a review of each piece of equipment. I'll be talking about the step on these, the Zerks, grease fittings, things that I can see possibilities of improvements. The hydraulics on this machine have worked very, very well, but on the Grapple, when I first got it, I had leaks with little bends in the attachments here where the hydraulics are, and I wasn't super careful videotaping the delivery of it because it was snowing and all, and I just stored them out back at that time. But yesterday I got 3 different pieces of equipment. One, a receiver for the track loader or skid steer. So this apparatus was sitting on top of the tree puller. So this tree puller looks like an excellent piece of equipment. I went ahead and tightened up all of the hydraulic lines beforehand, and one of the things I could see on the hydraulic lines on this unit, let me see, I'm not sure if the camera's going to show this, but this hydraulic connection right here is obviously bent, and so is this one. So if you go a nice straight line, you can see it's tighter on this side and looser on this. When this was delivered, these were down in this location, which you can see in the video if you back it up and look at it. And the receiver was actually upside down like this on here, where the receiving part of the receiver was down there next to here. I did touch up the paint a little bit on a couple of the areas here. I went ahead, snugged up all of the fittings, and potentially it was going to work, but as soon as I went ahead and grabbed a hold of a small little sod thing over here, it started leaking, so I stopped right away, and it was leaking right out of those locations where this is bent, where I think, I'm not sure just how it was secured initially at the factory, but this pallet was on top of that pallet. The tree puller was on top of this pallet, which was on top of this, and then the receiver was on top of here. And you can see in the video, I touched up the paint on this. This was all scratched up, and the straps weren't good on it. So this was bouncing up and down, and I think that's how it damaged these hydraulic ends. The rototiller, which I've got over there that I haven't actually hooked up yet, we've been having little bouts of rain, which we desperately need. But when I unloaded this from the FedEx 18-wheeler, I'd say I came in from this end, and the whole thing had been moving, and it's just, they use a pneumatic 16-penny nailer to put this thing together. No lateral or perpendicular, no horizontal or perpendicular supports on the side to help hold things where they should be. When you go to pick it up with the forks, these just pulled right apart, which made the front end tilt down. It doesn't look like there was any damage, just some scratching of the paint on the rototiller. I haven't hooked it up yet, but the hydraulic lines on this seem much more robust. Larger size lines. They're delivering much more, a higher volume of fluid for this large 84-inch rototiller. Will this handle our ground, this really rocky ground? I don't know. So I was just getting ready to hook things up. Went ahead and I had greased up the fittings on it, made sure everything was snug with everything, and went to hook it up, and now look at this. Something had compressed this. Would have been one hell of a bit of weight. It didn't appear that they had anything sitting on top of the rototiller when I went to, because this was curled up and zip tied like this, which I thought was excellent. I didn't notice anything until I just went to hook this up, and this connection here has been damaged. This isn't great. Now, maybe they did have something on top of it. So you can see, I don't know. That's frustrating. Okay, I'm back. So as you can see in the video, I have suspicions about how things were originally packaged. I think that the tree puller was put on one pallet. It was strapped to one pallet. That pallet ended up adding on top of another pallet. I think that secondarily at some point in time that and I'm guessing this part, that the receiver was probably upside down, so in other words where the receiver was sticking up, and that's how the female flat face coupler got squished during the bumpy ride with the receiver squishing that. And then when the receiver was put on top of the tree puller, it was put right on top of the hydraulic fittings, and that bent the connections to the male and female flat face couplers as well. Bizarre that something like this would happen. But if you look at the video closely, you'll see the scratch marks on the various pieces of equipment that I talked about, and even next to where the flange was, where the female flat face coupler for the rototiller. I didn't notice that at all when it was so hot and humid and all. I just took the GoPro camera, handheld it, and walked around and looked at things. So again, this isn't to say prime attachment isn't good. We all have areas where we can improve upon, and certainly one of the areas that they can improve upon is their processing for shipment. One, making sure all hydraulic hoses, everything's taken care of, get it palletized correctly and secured on the pallet. When they're palletizing things, I recommend they use screws instead of the 6-penny pneumatic nailer that they use for making the pallet for the rototiller. I think that even having the screws and having diagonal supports on it, that the strap should have gone right down underneath the 2x4s to the whole pallet, so it all was being held tight together, so that, and using at least 4 straps for a 84-inch long rototiller, because you're picking it up on the end instead of picking it up on the sides. If I picked it up on the sides, I could have widened out my forks, but that's the way they chose to load it onto the trailer, and that's the way it came off the trailer. And as you could see, there was teeter-tottering there. I was very careful. Everything that you saw in this film was sped up three times, so that although it seemed like I was moving right along, I was moving very cautiously and slowly to avoid any damage as a result of the unloading or delivery process. So again, I think Prime Attachments make some really fantastic equipment so far. I really enjoy it. The forks have been great. The rock and brush grapple, I think, have been great. I will make videos in the future at some point in time when things calm down, where I'll talk about little things that I think that they could modify. Some of the grease fittings or zerks, where they position them, and there could use a few more zerks on them as well. I think that the steps on these things, because you're getting on and off of these, if you don't have really good soles on your shoes, your work boots or whatever, and it's raining, or a hydraulic hose blows, or there's mud on the system, or there's mulch on the surface of it, you could slip and hurt yourself as well. Otherwise, these things are kick-butt pieces of equipment. I think they're really, really fantastic. Hopefully they'll get me the hydraulic couplers that I need and the hydraulic lines, so that I can get this up and running like I got the grappler working this spring once we discovered the damage to the hydraulic lines. So just wanted to document the process and share that with you, and I'll keep you posted on how things go. So stay safe, take good care of yourselves, folks, and work your plan and plan appropriately. Take care now. Bye-bye.